HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Heartificial Intelligence, Embracing Our Humanity to Maximize Machines by John C. Havens. Read by Eric Michael Summerer. Author's Note: The challenge in writing about an emerging technology such as artificial intelligence is that between the time you finish your manuscript and when your book is published, there's a strong possibility a new discovery has been made in the field about which you've written. So, in an effort to placate any future commenters on Amazon, Reddit, or any other platform, at the time of writing this book, Google has still not announced specifics around its Artificial Intelligence Ethics Board. If by the time you're hearing this, it has, I say thank you to Google. Hopefully, I'm expressing my gratitude while even being on that board, enjoying delicious and healthy meals from Google's famed cafeterias between stints in one of their nap pods, where I do my best thinking. At the time of writing this book, there is no formal, industry-wide AI ethical standard of which I am aware. I certainly could have missed it, and there are a number of great organizations working in this area, many of whom I interviewed in this book. My focus in Heartificial Intelligence is more to point out the necessity of such standards and why they're important to individuals than to comment on one organization's accuracy or efficacy. If we've been taken over by AI robots in some way, then I'd like to point out how favorable I am regarding our future sentient colleagues. Seriously, this is not an anti-AI book or anti-transhumanism book. I believe AI ethics is actually a more mature way of looking at our future with machines than creating potential sentient machines we sell and enslave. Call me crazy. I think it's important to have a sense of humor about AI. This doesn't mean I take the subject lightly. As I point out in the book, I have struggled a great deal with fear and depression on the subjects of automation and loss of agency. But I wrote this book to help you move beyond fear and be constructive as you consider the inevitability of AI in our midst today. My vote is that we greet the future with curiosity, laughter, and joy versus dread, gloom, and fear. Final author's note. I'm a huge fan of Monty Python, so this author's note serves no purpose except to be silly. Introduction. Spring, 2021. If you want your daughter to live, this is the only solution. My wife was in the waiting room with my two kids, my 11-year-old son and my 9-year-old daughter, the white paper on the examining table freshly crinkled from where Melanie had been examined moments before. The smell of the alcohol swab they'd used after taking her blood still hung in the air. So the computer chip goes directly in her brain? I asked again. I was having a difficult time understanding what exactly was going to happen to my daughter to combat her young-onset Parkinson's disease. A year before, her hands had begun shaking throughout the day. Her seizures increased in intensity, and 2 months ago she began experiencing blackouts and fell down at school. Her diagnosis came quickly, although she'd gone through a battery of painful tests to confirm it was Parkinson's. Yes, answered Dr. Schwarma, our family practitioner for the past 6 years. An extremely sharp and caring woman in her mid-30s, she never beat around the bush with her diagnoses. She'd contacted a friend who worked in Manhattan who specialized in the procedure. The chip will help control the erratic synapses in her brain that are causing her seizures. I pointed to the iPad in her hands. Is the chip like something you'd find in a computer? I'm assuming it stays in her brain permanently once it's put in? That's the hope, although the human body is an intense environment. There's a good chance the chip will need to be replaced, but it's a relatively simple procedure even though it involves the brain. Plus, there's the possibility of remote updates for the chip with newer technology, which would mean less chance of future surgery. I paused before speaking as the voice of the office secretary came over a loudspeaker calling for one of Dr. Schwarma's colleagues to come to the front desk. So if there are remote updates, I said, this chip will be firmware, correct? It's not like the silicon equivalent of a stent or whatever. It's active technology. Dr. Schwarma nodded. That is correct. So that will involve Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or iBeacon technology or whatever?
Sample complete. Ready to continue?